Welcome to the Sourcing Exchange, where we connect, share and discuss insights that shape the future of sourcing in the apparel industry.
Okay, Delman, welcome to the Sourcing Exchange. Thank you for joining us. We're very grateful. And a quick little story. I have to say, you and I have been having breakfast every Friday for how many years? 2, maybe 3 years, yes. I think, pretty consistently. And it was part of my inspiration to start this series, actually, because I find the topics we get to talk about in our industry, not just our breakfast, but every exchange I have with the retail community or the supplier community, right. I literally go home and say to my wife, you won't believe the topics we discussed today and how interesting our work is effectively. So I thought, why not turn it into a podcast? So a bit of a thank you for providing a bit of the inspiration for the podcast. But enough about my story. Let me hand over to you a little bit. Would you mind introducing your background for the benefit of the viewers?
My background? I'm Delman Lee. I currently run quite a few things, but I'm the vice chair at the TAL group of companies. But I'm an engineer by training. Electrical engineer by training, and after university I went to actually a few other universities. I was in the research community for a while before coming back to this family business 25 years ago. Easy to remember, I think. Yeah, I came back in year 2000 and had been in the business learning from basics of ERP to where I'm now. Yeah.
And I do know you have interests in many businesses beyond the TAL business. Do you want to touch on a little bit? There's probably too many to mention, but maybe one or two.
So because of my training as an engineer, I like to problem solve technical gadgets and stuff, so I try to apply the same in my industry, which is apparel manufacturing. So I definitely learned a lot about the apparel manufacturing, and as you can imagine, apart from the fashion creative side, there's still a lot of engineering aspects to manage. So applying technology in our industry has always been one of the core DNA of our company, and it started before me. My uncle is also an electrical engineer when he ran it, and my father is also an engineer. So we are sort of a pretty engineer company from an apparel manufacturer perspective. So using technology has always been one of the core DNA, and maybe later we can talk about like some of the supply chain services that we offer in apparel manufacturing. But because of that, we also went into other aspects of the apparel industry, like we have a division that does body scanning using technology, and now you can scan yourself at the comfort of your home with your own telephone, and you'll be able to order a garment online made to your taste and your body shape. We also have supply chain consultancy, where it sort of started from the TAL supply chain services, but we are in multiple areas in the sourcing world, trying to hopefully help our clients to have impact in their business and help the industry a bit.
You prompted me on two topics a little bit, because I know you have an interest in innovation, and you've talked about the body scanning business, but you also have a business that really leans into generative AI. But I think I wouldn't mind tackling that a little bit later, because I know that's not a new topic for you, so I'd be interested to explore that. I thought I might explore the common interest between you and your uncle, both engineers and both with an interest in innovating within the industry. So out of curiosity, either your uncle or either yourself within the TAL business, do you want to talk to one of the innovations that you've created that I don't want to put you on the spot and say first in the industry, but something that at least was progressive for the
I mean,
industry?
the example would be the supply chain service. It started before I joined the company, so it definitely started with my uncle. And at that time, if you think of it as a business model, right? At that time, maybe people perceive a manufacturer as someone that's, you give an order, you work with them, and they manufacture a garment for you, and you ship, and then you get invoiced, right? That's products. And at that time also, people also think it is a sunset industry because it's not making chips or anything advanced, but everybody still need clothes. So it was a breakthrough for the industry where we actually begin to offer services or innovations on top of the physical garment, which is services. So basically sort of a value-added service. And we offer their services to our brands and retailers that we work with, and it's included in the price of the garment. So we sort of went beyond the normal way of working, that actually apart from the price you pay us, apart from the garment, it has services which includes managing the inventory for you at your retail store on a weekly basis. And of course, there's all the integration behind it in place as well. So my uncle started it. I just sort of came in and with my engineering mind, just turned it into maybe more of a maths problem, more of a using more advanced algorithm to make sure we replenish correctly. And about a third of our business is managed by some type of supply chain service.
And because a third of your business is managed by a supply chain service, you have the perfect testing ground to kind of draw some comparisons between working with retailers where you use the value-added services and those where it's a more conventional relationship. And I know through our discussions, there's really distinct and tangible benefit when you collaborate, in particular with the planning. And I know it's not just planning, it's beyond planning. And at least my observation anyway is it really is something unique to our sector, because normally planning is broken into silos. You have the front-end planning done by the merchandise financial planners, demand planners, you have the supply planners, then it comes to the factory. Rarely is it all integrated. Maybe just, I won't ask you to talk to the additional value because I think it's clear. Yeah. Maybe one practical illustration of why that is a better proposition if it fits the retailer's model, because I have to say that it doesn't fit all retailers' models, but where it does fit.
So, I mean, the use case is we actually, when we try to sell this service, it's a big change management exercise. And when you cross between even different functions of your customer, it's difficult to sell. But on quite a few cases where we actually managed to actually run a workshop for them, where we run a simulation game. I think in the academic world it's called the beer game, but we run an online version of that where the computer pretends to be the market and it orders some things, and then you put different teams in different rooms, but they work in isolation, in silo, and you begin to order things to meet a certain demand in the market. And very soon, within 1 hour, where every 3 minutes is a decision, within 1 hour, 20 decisions later, your supply chain is a complete mess when you don't talk to each other. And then they begin to buffer buys. They buy more than they need because they see a trend.
The bullwhip, effectively.
The bullwhip effect, that's what supply chain called. And the bullwhip effect is really well illustrated in that simulation game. It was a wood supply chain where there was a forest at the upstream and either paper or furniture at the end. But like after 1 hour, the whole forest is gone. And then there are things left over in different parts of the supply chain, depending whose orders it, etc. So this has become, there's like tons of standard learning from it, that when you collaborate, it's better for the end, but also the point that if you have leftover in different parts of the supply chain, someone is losing out. And if you just think for yourself that, oh, at the end of the game, I have nothing lose because I'm in this particular part of the supply chain, but if someone else loses out in the supply chain, it actually is a cost to someone. And this is sort of is one of the big points for us, that if you really want things to improve, you actually have to think a bit beyond yourself throughout the supply chain.
Hey, one more question on this topic. I think it's a great topic. Last week I interviewed Ahmed from Hiren, and wonderful interview. We talked about this topic. He shares your passion, but he brought what I thought is an interesting view. I'm going to share it a little bit. We were talking about AI, and he thinks there's a little bit too much discussion about the use of AI in forecasting. He thinks we should think about it a bit differently. And part of a much broader vision that he painted, but a part of it was acknowledging these super long lead times, which makes forecasting particularly difficult. So he talked a lot about pre-positioning. So I observe pre-positioning within the industry as something that everyone dabbles with, but nobody fully scales. I'm sure there are very good examples of companies who fully scale, but there's not that many. I'm not sure if it's a question as much as an observation, but I suspect that's part of the... Would you say that's a significant part of collaborating effectively, or is there other parts that you think you need to zero in more so? And I know you said change management. I think that's clearly one.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of my own pitfalls. I'm an engineer. I like algorithms, and I like new ways of forecasting. So with that hat on, sometimes we go too deep on forecasting. With the recent advances in AI and Gen AI, a lot of new algorithms to explore in forecasting. But forecasting is only one part of the problem. I mean, you could have we come across organization where there's a very good forecast, but the processes between different departments are not synchronized or not organized, and it ends up that another department overwrites the forecast and order the things that they want anyway. So forecasting is definitely not the end all. It has interesting algorithm to explore, but coordinating people around it, around different functions within a brand or retailer, and of course for vendor managed inventory where the suppliers are also involved, it's another boundary to cross over. And to have that trust that everyone is working to lean the whole supply chain up is difficult to achieve. I remember in one of the meetings that we're selling our service as a manufacturer to a brand and retailer, after the end of the pitch, someone did say, hey, how am I going to make sure you're not just going to keep producing things and stuff everything in my inventory just to meet so that you get lots of revenue? So at times you do hear people that has mistrust in other parties, and if that exists, it just doesn't work.
And now, if I hear correctly, there's trust across the value chain, even trust internally.
Yes.
And then there's trust of the algorithm. That's kind of a new thing too, right? And you mentioned that in some cases people just override the algorithm anyway. So
yeah, so getting the internal parties trusting each other across the supply chain, and also you mentioned trusting the algorithm, right? I recently have seen the phenomenon where a lot of organizations are building up AI teams, and because of the hype of AI and Gen AI, the output from that team is like God. Nobody dare to touch it. And so I've seen organizations where the forecast coming up from the AI team is untouchable, even though it begins to have bad accuracy. And that's where you have everyone, they have to really talk to each other and not be,
There's a theme. There's a real theme. Let me switch topics. At the beginning, you didn't talk to your background in sustainability, but we know you're heavily invested in sustainability. I mean, I would guess over a decade, something like that. So you're genuinely invested. And you get a viewpoint where you get to see across many companies in our industry anyway. How would you summarize the current state of play?
Yes. So sustainability, it's just a topic that I picked up when I joined TAL. So there was no, at that time there wasn't I don't think there was a course on sustainability at that time. It's just something I'm passionate about, doing the right thing in the business. I mean, in the early days, it's about the perceived sweatshops in apparel manufacturing. So it was one thing I want to make sure we don't run a sweatshop. And thank God to my uncle, to the credit of my uncle, he doesn't run a sweatshop. and doing the right thing for the business I've just hooked onto it in the early days. And I've been doing it for, I think, 20 years or, definitely more than 10 years. And the state of play, wow. At this very moment, it's a bit of a mess, I would have to say, with the recent changes in the US. And it actually has a sort of a seismic impact on a lot of initiatives around the world. There's definitely continue to be a core bunch of folks that believes that we need to run a sustainable business, but a lot of momentum, I think, is lost with the recent changes in the US political environment.
Do you have a view on what the industry can do about it?
So this is actually what we've been trying to, the whole industry, not just us, has been trying to tackle this issue. And it has gone through multiple phases. In an ideal world, we would expect the consumer demands it. And then the whole problem is a pure capitalistic solution where your product needs to meet the demands of the consumer. If consumer demands sustainable products, therefore you make them, therefore you get a larger share of the market. And then basically the whole private sector just work by itself. Unfortunately, that didn't quite work out. I mean, maybe in the early days there was a belief. There's still a belief, but the consumer demand is not as large as one would have hoped. And now, my personal belief, not everybody agrees, is that regulation has to come in. It's not the best answer to the problem, but for all the circumstances that we are in, regulation is probably becomes one of the major levers to begin for the systemic change, and that's why you probably see I said with the recent changes in the US, it's that lever for that particular country is a bit not as strong as one would like.
And what about people who are working in a retailer or a brand, or they're working in with a supplier? If a large part of the answer is with regulation, which I would have to agree with as well, how do people within our industry feel empowered? Because it kind of feels a little bit out of our hands unless you're a lobbyist.
So this is probably where I believe regulation is the last resort, but the threat of regulation, I hope, is enough of a motivation for companies to begin the work. And it's sort of like, if you're any company, you need to plan ahead. If you believe that actually regulation will come at some point and you want to be at the front of the pack, you should begin to work on things that are sustainable, because you believe the world needs a systemic change in apparel or any other industry that is affected by sustainability, which is like almost everything.
And recently you introduced a new term to me, and I can't remember it, so I'm going to prompt you to help me through it. It might be new to other people in the audience as well. But it's about how you address should should global warming problems manifest more so, being prepared for that. Because most of the discussion is about preventing, but in this instance, you were talking about, in the event things happen, people are now talking about
adaptation.
That's the word. That's the word.
So definitely a lot of people are talking about mitigation, reducing carbon to eliminate the problem. There are now talks of people that it's coming. How do you adapt your working environment to those issues? I myself are actually still learning about that topic, doing basic sort of like future risk analysis on what will come and then how does it affect the operation. So you need to adapt to it. But I'm still placing a lot of hope on mitigation, on really actually doing the work to, for example, reduce carbon.
Very good, very good. And maybe one last question on this topic. Favorite use case can be within TAL, or it can be with a retailer or brand.
Use case
for progressive impact, innovation within sustainability within our industry.
Favorite use case. I don't think I have a favorite use case. Let's come back to that later.
We'll come back. Okay, let me switch gears. I want to talk about, you touched on this earlier. I'm going to refer to it as the value chain, but the value chain and bringing the value chain together. So I'm really talking about bringing all the suppliers along the value chain, as well as the retailer and brand, together. I know you mentioned it earlier, I'm not sure if you'd call it a principle, but it's certainly an interest and maybe even a passion of yours. With that in mind, and considering you've been working with that mindset for 20 years, let's say, where do you think we are across a 20-year spectrum? Have we moved forward tangibly? Are we where nothing's changed? Where are we on
collaboration across the supply chain?
Yes.
Unfortunately, I don't think much have changed. I think we progress a bit and then we go back a bit. It's like a bit of a pendulum swing. Maybe net there's a little bit of progression, but I haven't seen a substantial shift and then maintained shift. Just even on supply chain programs, I don't think. I think a lot of organizations still don't run supply chain as its best. There's still a lot of supply chain excellence projects out there. For whatever reason, things that we put in place in the past has been dismantled. Once maybe the organization goes through some changes, and we need to restart a lot of them. So when you actually mention, a lot of people mention pre-positioning and maybe something called read and react program. So we've done all that. But if you ask the question, you taught me that. If you ask the question, who consistently run those type of programs, and you don't always get a positive answer.
I'll ask you why you think that is, but let me buy you some time, because I just want to share a little story. I know as within Weave, we kind of set out to target this relationship in 2022, I think it was. And when we reached out to the industry and said, hey, how can we help you bring the industry closer together? I remember getting overwhelming feedback from the retailers and brands saying, hey, we really believe in what you're referring to and we're very interested. However, we struggle to work well cross-functionally within our brand, within our retailer. And the reference there is the relationship between the designer, the buyer, the planner, the sourcing team, the product developers. So I always remember that. So naturally we pivoted a little bit and focused on helping build cross-functional agility and capability within the retailer and brand. So I would say that's one reason is around prioritization. But I've bought you about a minute there to hear your point of view.
I think you're onto something there. Why has past programs don't persist? We encountered something similar things in manufacturing. It's really about people believing in those principles and concepts and somehow held it through the organization for years to come and different generations of the management. So it's really about education and some DNA that still persist along, even though you have management change. Probably need a strong leader and strong beliefs in certain principles.
I have to say, in my position, getting to talk to lots of retailers and brands, there seems to be, I guess it's an obvious statement, but it's worth noting, when we work with retailers and brands who have had an executive team with long tenure, so let's say they've been the same core group for 5 years or so, you find these collaboration programs much more embedded and evolved. But I guess there needs to be a little bit of empathy within the industry. Not every retail business is doing well, and then you see the disruption. And but if I switch gears again, as mentioned at the beginning, you have also been heavily invested in technology, and the buzzword at the minute is AI and generative AI. You've been invested in generative AI for a while, so you come at it from quite an informed position. So I'm going to kind of cut to the chase. People are talking about agentic solutioning, right? And I guess the big question is, do you believe in the hype? And if you believe in the hype, how quick will we see demonstrable change, either in the retail brand side or on the factory side?
Okay. So a Gen AI is like no other hype, sorry. So there have definitely been lots of hypes. For myself, there's some, what's the word? False hypes. For myself, blockchain is a false hype. Before Gen AI came, where there's just AI or machine learning, for me, it's already a advancement. Around the time when autonomous vehicle became like popular news and everybody talks about it, that particular boost in autonomous vehicle and everything around using cameras to do things, and the camera seems to understand the world. So that for me, at that time, I thought that was a super hype that would last forever until 1.5 or 2 years ago when Gen AI came, which sort of overtook that hype as well. And I'm an engineer, so actually I have all the background, and in the AI world, there's a period called AI winter,
Right.
where people actually don't believe all the algorithms behind AI. And I was probably at the early stage of AI winter when I was at university. I was actually one of the people that don't believe in it, did not like black boxes, because nobody can explain what's going on, and the things it can do was actually quite limited at that time. So I was at the beginning of AI winter. So when the autonomous vehicle came, that was like AI winter became AI summer.
Summer, yes.
But when Gen AI came, I actually need a new term. I don't know what it is. So Gen AI is like no other hype you've seen before, and it's not hype is the wrong word actually. It's really a breakthrough that is going to last for quite a long time, and it's pervasive. It hits a lot of you would have experienced by now. Everyone would have experienced that by now, whether it's your day-to-day job, doing searches into internet, to people talking about discovering new drugs. I think I heard last week there was a new drug discovered. And then all the promises and the fear that it becomes, what's the word? Sentient, I think that was the word. So I so so there's definitely some visions out there that are maybe more difficult to achieve, and it's all the good science fiction, what science fiction talks about. I think we're definitely a lot closer, and I cannot predict when it will happen now. But if you talk about maybe not AGI, not artificial general intelligence, but if anything agentic, helping manufacturing out, I think simple things within the next year or two, simple intelligence, if there's such a word.
What's an example?
I mean, the typical example people talk about is ordering your pizza, or ordering your picking a place in your restaurant, and the agent does more than just say no, there isn't a seat for you. It will actually find options for you, and maybe propose things for you. So those things I think is very doable. And if you can think of those in terms of what's possible in production. If there's a bottleneck in the production line, I do expect agentic solution to come within a year or two to begin to offer solution to you, rather than just say, no, there's a bottleneck. Your efficiency is low, but it should be able to have some intelligence to begin to tell you, hey, the bottleneck is because there was a quality issue with a particular station. I think those simple, should be doable pretty.
I mean, I feel like that. I feel like that's how it will happen in my mind. Is it's not going to be a big bang moment. I mean, there may be some big bang moments, but I think it becomes this evolution of small use cases that amalgamate, and before you know it, the world's changed. Like if we fast forward 5 years, do you think it's too much to say we'll go through an unprecedented amount of change in the next 5 years compared to any time in history? Is that too bold or fair?
I think it's fair. I don't know. Recently there've been talks about, there've always been talk about robotic sewing in production. Recently there definitely talks in the Gen AI world of how to, I'm put it simply, how to program a robot in the fastest way possible with Gen AI tech. So I've seen company be able to program a robot much faster than in the good old days, where you actually have to go and figure out what's coming in from the camera, what's coming in from the sensor. But there are now new ways to do it, where you actually just train the robot to do certain tasks, and it will come up with the algorithm on how to control the robot. So you could imagine, you could imagine some breakthrough in robotic sewing, possibly, because the way to program a robot is just gone. There are different ways to do things.
I mean, that's a great story. Do you have another great story that has nothing to do with our industry, but it's the one that, I don't know, sparks thinking? It's one that you like, or it's just one you enjoy that kind of speaks to where we're going?
I don't have one, but there are, as you know, there are great challenges in the world. One of the things that actually relates to sustainability, if people can figure out nuclear fusion, that would be the thing. But if Gen AI tools can begin to solve scientific problems, which is a lot of companies talk about it, OpenAI included, there could be scientific breakthrough that is possible now that was not possible before. So that's why I mentioned drug discovery it has happened already, but very hard problems like fusion and other, I'm hoping something could break through there.
Very good. Last topic. Just I've certainly loved working in this company, and part of it I think is being a family business. I think that's different to working in a listed company, but I think it's fair to say probably all listed companies feel different and all family businesses feel different.
They're the good and bads of family business.
But maybe, I'm sure there's people who will listen who, actually I've seen it being in this family business, other family businesses kind of reach out to work out how to make a family business work well, and I think TAL is viewed as a North Star perhaps to some. Any insights, tips that's worked for TAL?
That's a big question. As a family business?
Yes.
Well, as you know, one of the biggest problems with family business is transition.
Yes.
I'm actually the third generation, but the transition from the second to the third, I must thank my uncle, Uncle Harry Lee, on being able to let go of certain things and let me and his son Roger and my cousin Eugene to take things over. Help us to learn things along the way, but at the right time, let us try new things. Yeah. But for myself, it's being a family business and maybe have some spoken or unspoken principle on how you would like to run it is possibly important. So TL stands for certain things: honesty, integrity, and sustainability is actually our purpose for the TL Apparel business. So those type of long-lasting principle that can be upheld by the family members and hopefully throughout different generations of management. I think that's sort of related to our earlier point. It's important. So figuring out what one's family business wants to do and certain principle to keep, what businesses to go into, it helps. I mean, honesty, integrity is a very simple one. It's an important one. But other things that Chair does is we like to build things.
I've noticed.
and yeah, there are talks of why are we not in real estate, or yeah, take the money and just invest somewhere else. But we're engineers. We like to build things. We like to innovate. So that type of unspoken DNA, it's important to remember. Yeah.
Thank you. That's a great answer. It's very insightful for me, and I'm sure a lot of people. Kind of getting towards the end, was there any topic you wanted us to jump into that we didn't?
No.
I try to pick the big ones if I can. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thoroughly enjoyed.
Thank you.
A little bit like our Friday morning breakfast. We probably covered more turf maybe today. Thanks for joining. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Delman.
Thank you.